All right, Tar Heel Nation, we are here. We're trying a little post-game live stream. I got Gil here. Gil, last year you helped me out tremendously with the podcast. This year we haven't gotten you on here, so I'm glad to see you. And just how you doing?
Man, fantastic. Anytime we beat Duke, it feels amazing. And to sweep them, it always feels extra special.
Yeah, that was something, and we're gonna get into and kind of talk about the game. I don't want this to be too formal. I want us to just kind of converse and talk about it. So don't feel bad if you're cutting me off or talking over me. And I don't know, where do you want to go first? Where do we?
I think start with the seniors. Senior night, the like lasting image right at the end that I keep seeing scroll on Twitter is Sterling Manley getting the block at the end after getting the dunk from Andrew Platek with the assist. Platek bookended the game with assists, and Garrison being emotional and hugging Sterling Manley, hugging coach. I think start with Garrison and talk about the seniors and what they've meant to this program over the years. Feels like the Carolina family way to do it.
Yeah, and I think Garrison set the tone from the beginning. He hit a jumper right away. Right? No, it was his first one not even the jumper, right? That was the second one where he sprained his ankle.
No, I think that was the opening basket, I believe. And yeah, Hurts slid right up under him, and unfortunately Garrison rolled it. But I was feeling good that that hurts a lot when it happens, but that he would be able to bounce back. And sure enough, they went back, taped it up, and he came back and was 4 for 4 in the first half, and just continued a really solid game. You could see his leadership.
Yeah.
Even though he is a little bit more of a quiet leader, you could see it throughout this game when the freshmen were getting a little bit spastic with the ball, for example, there in the second half with Duke's pressure. So to see Garrison just keep everybody calm was huge, regardless of his stats, which he still ended up with, I believe, 15 points.
14 points, 5 rebounds, 2 for 3 from the 3-point line. And I think that hurts more the next day. It's going to probably swell up a little bit, but thankfully we have now until Wednesday next week to kind of get him healthy, and he's not one that's going to be hurt if he has to miss some practice and stuff like that. And
he's a tough player. I mean, he took the elbow to the chin against Washington in the NCAA tournament. What was that, 2 years ago or whatever? And lost part of a tooth. He's a tough guy. He'll bounce back, I believe. And
all the pokes in the eye.
He put up those 3-pointers, man. I would have liked to see more of that throughout the season, to be honest with you. But I was really stoked when he stepped into it and made that second half 3-pointer. That was great.
Well, he had that heat check one too that was pretty short.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good for him. So you mentioned Sterling Manley. He looks like a completely different person out there.
Yeah.
I mean, he was so skinny. I mean, it's been 2 years since we've really seen him in a uniform. And he's beefed up. I don't know, maybe it's because he's out of shape too. He's not running a ton, but
with the leg injury, often you can work the upper body, and sure enough, we've seen that development in him. And you mature a lot physically in that age range from 18 to 22 or something. And so him being a redshirt junior, he's had that maturity in terms of his physicality and his growth, and be interesting to see what he might be able to bring to the table next year. I think this year, just seeing him on the court this time was something that was pretty special and a great way to end off that game, because I always want things. I'm kind of what's the word? I don't know. I want us to win by 20 if we can beat them by 20. And Duke was getting a bunch of garbage time baskets, and to see us get that little spurt at the end was a great punctuation.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't know though. And I don't know that his upper body is. Obviously it's his knees. So the more weight you put on, the more strain you're going to put on your knees. But I think that might be kind of his going away party right there. I don't know that we're going to see him come back, unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, you see it in the 2 plays he had there. Obviously, it's garbage time, but a dunk and then that block. I mean, it takes athleticism and skill and stuff to do that. But even after that block, he had some kind of brace on one of his shoulders, and it looked like his arm was kind of dragged. I don't know. Maybe I'm just looking into it too much.
Yeah.
I don't have anything.
Well, you might be right. He was out there. I saw a picture of the seniors holding up their jerseys before the game, and he was out there with them, although he wasn't holding one up.
Well, and I wonder, because he's not a senior, if they kind of said, "Hey, this is your class, go stand out there." But if they didn't have a jersey for him, I don't know. Again, I saw the same picture, and I was like, "Who is that?" It's like, okay, it's Manley, but he's not he's not going to be gone next year. He's not, unless he just kind of leaves. But I don't know.
Now Twitter's all
hopefully
buzz too, because someone tweeted that after the senior festivities, which I haven't been able to see, but will be trying to track them down when I can, that Roy Williams kissed the NC logo on the court before walking off. So there's going to be some reading between the lines in that, but I think.
Do you know who else did that? Well, it wasn't the NC logo, but you know who kissed the court the last time we saw him in a North Carolina jersey? A little trivia time here.
Harrison Barnes?
It goes way back. It was
Way further back? Okay.
It was a Final Four that we lost in the Final
Jordan?
Four. Nope, not quite that far. It was Antoine Jameson.
Okay.
When we lost to Utah in '98, and this is like my prime, middle school.
Oh man, don't bring that game up, man. That's painful.
Yeah, no, I won't bring the game up. But I was so impressionable, so I'll never forget it. And he got down and kissed the center court in the Final Four court, and that was the last we saw.
One of my all-time favorites, right there, Jameson.
So I know that scares me too. I hadn't seen that or heard that about Roy.
I don't sense that. I think we're okay personally.
I think so.
I feel like he where is he going to go? And he still loves to coach. I mean, he just signed an extension. When was that? Just a year ago or within the last year, I feel like. And I think he's still actively wanting to be involved. So I'm not going to read too much into that. I think we should get back to the game. We were talking about a few stats before we started the broadcast here, and the bench points is really what stood out to me. Carolina with 73 and Duke with 7. And we should mention, right, the final score, 18-point victory, by the way. Yeah,
well, and if we're watching on YouTube, which I don't know if I'll put this up audio-wise or not, but it is scrolling there at the bottom, 91-73 win by the Heels over Duke, sweeping Duke. So it's always a good year. We're doing that. And, you say 73-7. I don't know if the 7 is so much important. Obviously, it's not important to us, but that 73 off the bench. I mean, we had games this year where we had 5-7 points off the bench. So and now I think it's a little skewed because we started the seniors, and KJ, Andrew,
that's true,
and Walker Miller played 3, 7, and 3 minutes respectively. So all of Caleb's points, all of Baycott's, Walton's, Sharp's, Sharp usually are, but Kerwin, Baycott, and Love are usually starting, and all their points are. And all three of those actually had 18. Caleb, Mondo, and Kerwin all had 18. So
I know it's tough to pick a player of the game for this one. It's hard not to go with Brooks because I feel like that's where I
was going to ask you too. Who do you think?
But Kerwin is just so important for this team. Yeah. I mean, I think I got to go with Brooks because of sentimentality. You know what I mean, on senior night, and he really did set the tone and show up. And he had a great all around performance. But Kerwin is perhaps one of the most important pieces to this team.
Yeah, he was 4.
Although, as soon as I say that, I think about Baycott, and when we play well and when we don't play well, it tends to be when he plays well and doesn't play well, quite often too.
Well, but and I was gonna say Caleb Love when the 2 Duke games, what we've looked like when he plays like this, he's Kerwin is kind of got to expect those shots. We don't expect him to go 0 for 7 like the last game. We expect more like this 3-4 3-pointers to go in. And Baycott, he was pretty consistent. Then he dropped off a little bit here. But obviously we play well when he's. I mean, it's just crazy. Like when we got Sharp and Baycott, Brooks, hitting some of those outside jumpers. Even Kessler. We just abused them inside. And I know Duke is a lot thinner inside than a lot of teams, but.
Everybody just seemed locked in tonight, which was great. It was a great performance, really, by everyone. We can nitpick, and certainly the turnovers continue to be a problem for this team and very frustrating for fans to watch. But overall, the way that they came out, the kind of performance that they gave with the intensity defensively too, that's what really set us on that initial spurt to open the game and build the lead that we would never relinquish, was defensively. And Duke was a little careless with the ball, but I think we got to give some credit to our defense putting a lot of pressure on them.
Yeah, and they mentioned it in the broadcast. Duke couldn't get into their sets. There was a couple of times they said I think it was 8 seconds left on the shot clock, and they hadn't even got up to the top of the key yet. Mm-hmm. We were pushing them so far out, and unfortunately, people are going to say, "Okay, we see the potential in what this team can do," Now we're going to go Wednesday in the ACC tournament, and we've won one, we lost one, we won one. Now it's, we're going to drop an egg and lose to, let's see, we play Wake Forest or Notre Dame, second round of the ACC tournament. We're going to drop that game. We'll get one win in the NCAA tournament, and then we'll lose in the second round of the NCAA. It's and that's, obviously everybody knows that's been the frustrations this year is we can look so good against Duke, and then we go and lose to Marquette or Syracuse or, fill in the blank.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to wait and see what the games show us. I feel good about the road. Us jumping from that 7 spot to the 6 spot with the win puts us in a pretty good situation, I think. Notre Dame has shown some flashes here recently. They're a dangerous team. Wake could certainly beat them. Although I would think Notre Dame they're the 11 seed. Wake Forest is the 14 seed. I would expect to see Notre Dame, and they put a hurting on Florida State at home today. The ACC tournament being in Greensboro, you'd think that would favor North Carolina a little bit more if they were to play Notre Dame. And hopefully we will break that trend of win then lose, then win then lose. It'd be nice to go ahead and get another win. I believe we're safely in the NCAA tournament. I believe we were safely in. Even if we lost this game, we might have felt like we needed a win in the ACC tournament, maybe rightfully so. But I feel like we're obviously in as maybe an 8, 9, or 10 seed at this point. And a win or two in the ACC tournament could jump us up maybe to the 7 line, which would be nice. It's interesting this year, you probably want to avoid being an 8 or 9 going up against one of the more dominant 1-seeded teams.
We're so top heavy.
Yeah, very top heavy this year.
All right, before we can look at the ACC tournament here and the road we got here. Anything else on this game here before we jump too much? And
holding Matthew Hurt to, what was it, 4 of 16 or 6 of 16 shooting.
Yep.
That was huge. Now I think we were a little bit fortunate that he was out of rhythm and missed some open looks in the first half, but
yeah, he missed some bad ones.
Made things challenging for him quite often, and it's a good matchup for us. Garrison up against him and our bigs up against him puts a lot of pressure on him to defend, which I think hurts his offensive rhythm, which is why we're a good matchup against him. So that was big in this game.
Yeah, I think you're right that Duke is almost kind of a good matchup for us this year. As much bully ball we can play inside with them, it just works because they're such a finesse team this year out, perimeter.
Yeah, their guards are young, just like our guards are young. So
it's almost kind of fool's gold too. I said it after Louisville when we beat them by 45. That's great and it was fun to watch, but we're not 45 points better than Louisville if they're not coming off a big pause. And, I think we maybe are this, 10, 15 points better than Duke this year, but because more of the matchup, and we can't go into the next game and be like, hey, we're going to, roll these guys because we're playing better.
Yeah, 6 seed feels about right. If they had put it together better, we could have ended the season as a 4 seed. You know what I mean? But 6 seed feels about right for how this season has gone.
Yeah. Well, but before we jump over,
let's take a look at that ACC tournament.
Well, as I say, before we jump over to the ACC tournament, some of the comments we've gotten here from 300, big all caps Tar Heel Nation. Last 2 minutes had tears in my eyes. I think a lot of, again, the way this season has been is up and down and frustrated as they could have been. That this is a great kind of ending to the regular season and gives us all kind of warm, fuzzy feelings and gets it a little dusty in the air. Grant Bowden, who often watches the podcast lives, all is right in the world. Another sweep of Duke does definitely feel good. And then 300 says, if we could somehow shoot 3 like we do against Duke, we will be a problem in the ACC and the tournament play. And we kind of mentioned that a little bit as well, and we'll probably will as we get into the ACC tournament. And then 300 was helping you relive that. Actually, was Keith? I don't know that Keith Van Horn was on that Utah team that beat us. I
definitely remember Andre Miller was on that team.
I think it was the year after Keith Van Horn left, because there was all talk about, it's kind of that player of the year syndrome. Like a team has a really good player, but then the next year they actually become a better team. Because it was Miller killed us, and then they had the big guy Doliak. And then you remember Njai got into it with Britton Johnson, There was that whole incident there. So
yeah, shaking my head. You got that right, 300. And I think he's accurate too on how far we can go in both ACC and NCAA tournament. Does hinge a lot on how proficient we can be from the 3-point strike. You know, if we can convert at a above 30% clip, then that's exactly what we need to open up the spacing on the floor for our bigs, the strength of our team, to create a good offensive rhythm and flow for our team. So it is important for us to make those shots.
All right, so 300 is pretty convinced he was on there. I don't know. I'll maybe have to look it up here as we're talking. But, yeah, so I think going into the ACC tournament here, I'll see if I can't get the whole bracket up here. It's too big on my page. But I think something that was big here, and we kind of mentioned it before we went live, was Florida State losing today. You know, you mentioned that loss. But it bumped them down to 2 and bumped Virginia. And with us going to 6, now we stay away from Virginia, you know, and Florida State's probably the better team this year. But I think again, that matchup, and we've obviously proved we can beat Florida State. Virginia is just a horrible matchup for us. We just, can't seem to get it right playing them. So I think it was big for us to get away from Virginia. If we can get that far, if we can, get to play Virginia or Florida State and get to the championship, I think that would be a big reason why we can.
Yeah, the way this ended up falling for us, I feel like looks pretty good. Again, you got to show up in that first game. I think it was Roy who said, winning the first game of the NCAA tournament is always the hardest, and it's probably the same here in the ACC tournament. If we were to get through that, then we'd be looking at the number 3 seed Virginia Tech, which hasn't played in, 2 weeks or more.
Yeah, I don't know the last time they played, and really, I mean, you haven't heard much about them. You don't. It's not like a team you're just kind of like scared of, really.
No, yeah, and we haven't seen them since last year when we lost in like overtime at their place, I feel like. So
yeah, so we should probably mention we do play Wednesday. It's a 9 Eastern tip on ACC Network, which we mentioned too kind of before we went live. It's weird to think that the ACC tournament is going to be on the ACC Network and not on the ESPN channels. But then
those first 2 rounds,
right? Tuesday and Wednesday, and then Thursday it'll start on ESPN2. But still,
so 9 p.m. on Wednesday, and then if we survive whoever we play, Notre Dame or Wake Forest, then we'd play 9 p.m. again.
Yeah, we'll be the late game all the way through.
And then if we made it through the Hokies, it'd be also 9 p.m. on Friday in the semifinals against either Florida State, potentially Louisville. I don't see Duke or Boston College making a run, to be honest with you.
Nah, and I think Duke has the talent. I don't think they have the depth. I don't think they could, to do, again, 3 days, against quality teams.
Yeah.
And Louisville just beat them, right?
Yeah.
After
Cameron.
After we clobbered them.
I can see Duke beating Boston College, but not getting through Louisville, and certainly not getting through Louisville and Florida State. And you're right. I think that is huge for us. If we are going to face Virginia, it would be in the final. If we make it to the final, I think we'd all be pretty happy with that. Of course, you always want to win whatever game you're playing, but
yeah. And I think that would help our seed line as well, getting to the championship. And obviously it would help us a little bit more to win it. It obviously doesn't hurt to keep winning games, but we're going to get about as much value as we can if we're to the championship. Like what
would be the ceiling, like a 6 seed?
I can't imagine us getting much higher than us. I don't know. I mean, again, it comes down to what other teams are doing, who else is winning and losing and stuff like that. But it is kind of hard to imagine us being higher than a 6 seed. But
the ESPN and I guess the AP as well is loving on the Big 12 this year. So many teams ranked in the top 25 and looking at higher seeds there, but ACC tournament March 9th through 13th in Greensboro. Are they allowing fans to that?
I feel like I heard that they were after they opened everything kind of up, but then I saw somebody say they weren't. So I don't know if I was just imagining that or if that person was wrong. So maybe somebody that's watching here can look. 300 here came back and he repented. I was right. Keith left the year before. But
don't test his knowledge in that era.
I'm telling you that I was so impressionable at that point. I can remember those games. with
Oh
Vin.
man, I remember those games too. But man, I'm impressed with your vivid memory there.
I used to be able to go through and I could name like all the championship or all the champions. I don't know if I could remember the runner-ups, but I would go back from like in the 80s when obviously I wasn't watching the games, like from 80 up to like the early 2000s, when I had time to memorize things like that. And,
yeah, absolutely. And I wanted that Utah game so bad. That was a refreshing one.
That's hard for Antoine and Vince and Shamad and that whole group. Like such a fun group to watch, such a talented group for them not to get it.
Yeah, some of my favorite all-time players. So it'll be interesting to see if this iteration of UNC will be able to clean up their turnovers. That seems to be the issue that's plaguing us the most.
Yeah, how many did we have tonight? We still had 20 tonight.
Yeah. Amazing that we've had victories with turnovers in the 20s.
Mm-hmm. But, I don't know. What did Duke shoot? I feel like they just didn't shoot well. They shot 40% overall, but they were 5 for 27 from 3. And like you said, like Matthew Hurt had a couple of wide open ones in the first half, and he like clanked them back. Like they weren't even close.
Also, I saw when I just kind of skimmed Adam Lucas's rapid reactions, a pretty cool stat that this makes for a season sweep of at least one ACC foe every year the ACC has been in existence. So that's cool that we were able to manage that this season.
So and obviously if he said that in that one, we hadn't added up to this point, like it would have. And does that count if we only play him once then and we beat him? I don't know how that.
No, I don't think that would count for that particular stat.
Yeah.
So one stat that is troubling for this year's team is, as you were talking about earlier, the inconsistency, the winning, losing, is we have not yet won 4 games in a row. Will this team be able to put it together to make a deep run in either of these 2 tournaments that will require just that? So we got 1 right now. We're on a 1-game win streak. Now let's see if we can string together, 3 in a row.
I was gonna say if that sticks together and we can only get 3, we can't get 4. That means we're winning the first game against Notre Dame, Wake Forest. We beat Virginia Tech, and then we lose to Florida State.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't know either. I'm not good enough with the bracket stuff, but I think another important thing would be if we could get up to like a 7. Obviously stay away from the 8-9, like you were saying. Stay away from the Gonzagas and the Baylor's and Michigan and Illinois. The top heavy teams. If we can get to 7, it puts us like in the ACC tournament down at the bottom of a bracket with a 2 seed instead of a 1 seed. On that half. Again, if we can't win 4 in a row, it's not going to matter. But
at this point of the season, I could see this Carolina team making a Sweet 16 run. That's kind of where my head's at with it and where my heart's at with it. And anything above that would certainly be sweet. We'd all be smiling at that, I think. But a Sweet 16 run for this team, and then a good amount of the core coming back would be fun for all of us, I think.
Yeah, I think at this point anybody would take a Sweet 16. If you could say we're getting into the second weekend of the tournament, without seeing a bracket, you'd have to take that.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I don't know what else. One other thing I kind of saw from tonight's game, they talked about our rebounding, and obviously it's huge for us. We
number 1 in the nation.
We actually only had 8 offensive rebounds tonight. Am I seeing this right?
Really?
And we only had 8 second chance points. Duke actually had. I didn't pull up any other stats. Yeah, it's the Duke game. We had
21 points off of their turnovers, right?
Points. Let's see. Points in the paint. Points off turnovers. I see 16.
Okay.
They had 23 points off our turnovers. So that's crazy too that we can win by nearly 20 and they have 23 points off turnovers. But they actually had
from the free throw line tonight was good.
Yeah.
I think since Roy's had them shooting those free throws, outside of practice time, I've seen that percentage go up. That's nice.
Besides,
from 3.
Syracuse weren't we horrible from the free throw line?
Yeah, but not as bad as some of our other horrible games.
Well, but in some of them, well, yeah, I don't know. You can say it either way, but some of those were blowouts. Syracuse, we weren't that far off. I know we only lost by 2. I think it was more than a 2-point game, but
They
when
had
you're
us by
that
12 near the end. Yeah.
yeah, when you're that close though, like free throws are pretty big. Again, I think it's well, obviously free throws. We know it's so much just mental and focused. Like obviously everybody was locked in tonight. Like we were ready to go, and
yeah, if they can bring that level of focus, even if you're off, like even if the ball's not going in the basket, but you're dialed in and you're playing defense like that and you're rebounding the ball, you can stay in any game.
Yep. Well, like Caleb, I mean, we talked about the defense earlier, but it kind of starts with the point guard, and Caleb's defense tonight was, he forced that over and back. They were, denying guys on the wings, and
he's the one guy on the team that I really feel like shows the heart, shows the emotion, particularly on that defensive end.
He's definitely the most emotional. Leaky and Garrison are pretty. I mean, the only body language we see from Garrison is negative stuff in certain games, but yeah.
He's a passionate player.
Baycott shows a little bit of emotion, but yeah, you're right that Caleb is definitely, and I think it was huge him hitting that first 3 that he took. Again, he sees the ball go in and like it's a different game for him.
Yeah, for sure, and he stepped into it confidently, so that was great. And this is what we want to see out of Kerwin for sure, is a better shooting night like this. If he has a little bit better shooting night in the Carrier Dome, then I think we walk out of there with a win.
I tweeted out that somebody just needs to tell Caleb we're playing Duke every game. Like, hey, you ready for this Duke game? And every game, just Coach Williams or something. Just, hey, we got Duke tonight. It's a big game. Something.
Sure. Well, it was somewhat of a quiet night for Dayron, and yet still he threw down a monster dunk that just had everybody, I'm sure, in the Smith Center just going crazy.
That's the thing too. Our big guys tonight, they were dunking, they were going for dunks on everything and, and dunking everything. Like they were just, I don't know. We were an animal tonight.
In some of our losses, that's been one of the more frustrating things, is missing close to the basket shots, point blank range. It's like, go up strong and dunk it,
Yep.
Easy for me to say.
Right.
But they have the strength. They look like they're more than capable. And when they do, and they're playing with that level of aggression, then we're tough to stop.
Yeah, for sure. So we got some more comments here. I'm not going to try to pronounce this, but it says we're one erratic team. Which higher seed wants to see us in their bracket? I agree and disagree with that. I think there's teams that won't care to see us, and like they know that we're due for a bunch of turnovers, and we'll know how to handle us. But there's going to be other teams, like if the wrong team shows up, they're going to lose to a team they probably shouldn't have this year. But he also says that he hopes we're an 8 or 9 seed to get a shot at the 1 seed and their path. Yeah, it's great if you can beat the 1 seed, then you're kind of in control of that bracket. But
speaking of nostalgia, I remember when we were, I don't remember if it was 8 or 9 seed. I think we might have been the 8 when Joseph Forte, we beat Stanford Cardinal. That was a beautiful thing.
Yep, I think you were right. I don't know if we were 8 or 9, but it was that game. And then he says, if we play like we did against Syracuse Marquette, we're losing the first round. If we play like we did against Louisville, we're going to the final 8 or final 4. So you want to make a prediction here, Gil, going into the ACC tournament?
I think we go.
You kind of did already. You kind of said we were a Sweet 16, or we have. I don't know if you were predicting that, but you said
in the ACC tournament. Man, can we win 3 games in a row and make it to that final? I'm going to go yes. I'm going to go yes because I'm optimistic, and I want to see us do that.
So we're beating Virginia Tech, Florida State, and then losing to Virginia or whoever comes out of that top.
Yeah. And then in the NCAA, I'll say Sweet 16. I agree with what you were saying, Dan. A team that is like really defensively strong in the guard play. They got, more experienced guards, and then they are like really capable at penetrating and then dishing out. That's like our Achilles heel. So a team that has that, that does a bad matchup for us. But, we could certainly beat anyone in the country. So I'm excited. I'm excited about this team and where they can possibly go. Will they break my heart ultimately? Well, teams tend to. You know what I mean? Only one team wins.
Right, that's right. Yep. So here, I told you they were coming. Here's Chrissy. He says, we lose the next game, guys. You know how it goes. So I don't want to be the Debbie Downer here, but I'm going to actually say that we lose to Virginia Tech in the ACC tournament. I think we beat, Notre Dame or Wake Forest, whoever comes out of that one. I think we can win 2 in a row here. I think we're going to lose to Virginia Tech. I don't know why. I mean, I know we can beat them. I'm not really that scared of them, but it's a prediction. You got to go with it. And then NCAA tournament. And I don't know if that happens, if we lose to Virginia Tech, I don't know what what we're projected as, if we are in kind of that 8 or 9 seed. I think if we're in the 8 or 9, we lose in the second round to the 1 seed, which is bold prediction. I know, hot take here. If we can somehow get up to that 7, if I'm wrong in the ACC tournament, we go a little bit farther, we get up to that 7 seed, I think I'm with you in that we're a Sweet 16 team. I think we can, which I don't know, are we even pulling off an upset then? Maybe maybe that's not a hot take either.
I think it's still an upset if you beat the number 2 seed. I don't know.
Well, we don't have to beat the 2 seed, do we? As a 7 seed, is it 2 seed in the second round?
Yeah, if you're a 7 or 10, you're going to meet most likely the 2 seed in the second round.
See, I had a year off here from the.
Which would probably be a team like Texas or maybe Oklahoma State or Oklahoma, something like that.
See, and here's the thing we haven't even talked about. We don't have to go in this. Obviously, we got more time, but NCAA says somebody gets COVID, they're eliminated from the tournament. That team gets a bye. We get to that Sweet 16, and maybe somebody gets COVID, and we get onto the Elite 8 without even playing a game there.
I know that's going to be interesting to see what happens. I'm hoping that fingers crossed with this team that they had their situation earlier this season, and that they're going to be a little bit smarter this time around, and they're going to realize what's on the line. And a guy like Garrison, the seniors are going to keep everybody in check to hopefully stay safe. But in these times, things are just so unpredictable.
Right. And hopefully once, especially after that first weekend, and I don't even know if they're going by weekends. I feel like I saw something that they're kind of going to do it a little bit quicker with those first couple of rounds there. But hopefully after that first couple of rounds, even if you get into Indianapolis and we get to the games, they've had they've had like 7 days of testing or something, that you hope, everything's contained enough that they, for any team really, because I mean, it would obviously it would suck for North Carolina, but think about like a Gonzaga, a Baylor, if they get it and the tournament goes on without the number 1 overall seed, or I mean, really anybody, like a team that gets earn a mid-major that earns their way into the tournament, and then like they lose because they got COVID instead of actually losing a game. Like that's
probably likely that we're going to see some scenario like that, unfortunately, and it will be sad if that does happen. For sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we've covered quite a bit. We got a couple more questions here. So 300 says Roy doesn't care about this tournament. We got to get ready for the big dance. I think he's kind of proven that too.
That's a good point.
ACC is not his.
It's likely to be in between what you said and I said. It'll probably go 2 and 1.
Probably. And then again, I'm not going to pronounce this, but it says UVA is the only team boring enough to cancel out the joy of a national championship. and then
I'm not going to argue that.
We end it with a dad gummit. I wish Roy liked the ACC tournament more. Which,
maybe it's another topic for another day.
Yeah.
I have an affinity growing up in North Carolina for the ACC tournament. I remember the teachers rolling in the TV with the strap over it, and getting to watch ACC tournament likely with Carolina as a 1 seed in that noon game on Friday. So, I've got a place in my heart for the ACC tournament. But,
they are. I mean, they're so it's just the beginning of kind of March Madness, because you start to get the buzzer beaters and all that stuff. It just kind of gets you ready. But I don't know. It'll be interesting. Let's see. So we play Wednesday for the late game. I don't know if we'll do a post game. All of ours are going to be, I guess, the late game. So we'll have to kind of see how late I can stay up. I'm getting kind of old here if we can do these post games, but
maybe we can do a halftime.
Yeah, there you go. We'll have to figure something out. So follow us on Twitter. That's probably kind of where we'll post it if we're gonna be able to do anything like that. But Gil, thanks for jumping on here. I know,
thanks for having me, Dan.
I was kind of last minute, but Yeah, that's all we got for you guys tonight. Hope you guys enjoyed. And as always, go Heels.
Go Heels. Celebrate safely.